Okay, I think we might get a straggler or two, but I think we should probably get started. Oh, by the way, for all the students here, if you do not know who I am yet, I am Mr. Solderback. I am the director here of the College and Career Center at Vista High School. Some of you may have been to other career speaker sessions earlier today or yesterday, or maybe coming up this week or so. So you're going to be seeing me quite often. And today we have from OneWest Bank, Mark Walter and Jeffrey it's Lenhoff.
Lenhoff, you got it.
Yeah, and they want to talk to you guys about careers in banking. And also part of their own personal career and journey that took them from high school to where they are now, because one day you may be in the same position they are, depending upon what career choice you want to make. So this whole event is about exploring different options and exploring different industries. So Mr. Walter, I will leave it to you to start us off.
Okay, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. For starters, I am Jeff Lenhoff, and I'm with OneWest Bank. I actually work out of our La Jolla branch. I'm a vice president and branch manager. Mark Walters is here with me, but we are socially distanced. We even have masks. So Mark is all covered up in his mask, sitting in a corner about 20 feet away. But we are good to go. So I figured I'd start actually a little bit before high school and tell you a little bit about my journey. And then one thing, I know that it was mentioned that you're going to be taking some notes on some things and you have some questions you have to answer. So at one point towards the end for myself, before I turn it over to Mark, I'll have you write down 3 words and take those with you, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a couple minutes here. So for starters, where did it start with me? And I'm thinking back, and I was probably somewhere between 6 and 8 when I knew that banking was something I was interested in. I always had a fascination with money as a child, and so that interested me. So hopefully some of you are a little bit interested in money. But I remember growing up, and whenever we'd play Monopoly, I always had to be the banker. I wanted to be the one handing out the money, counting the money. It's like the more money, the better. Bring on the money. So around that, a little bit after that, somewhere between maybe, I don't know, 8 to 12, I started my own little business, mowing lawns in the neighborhood. And so I started collecting some of that money and really loved it. Eventually got a paper route where I was delivering newspapers, all kinds of fun stuff. And I was fortunate enough that my mom took me to a local bank that's no longer in existence, Security Pacific. And I live in the East County, so it was out there, and started a savings account. And I started saving money, and I could see that money growing. And then I noticed, oh, wow, the bank is actually giving me a little bit of money each month as well. So they were paying me some interest. So I appreciated that. Going through high school, had various jobs, had a couple jobs here and there. And after high school, I decided, well, I'm going to go to college. And I came from a family that worked at the post office. And so I started a part-time job at the post office. And I was going to college. And around that same time, maybe 6 or so months after that, a friend of mine started dating somebody that worked at a bank. And she was a bank supervisor. And I had always had that interest in banking. And so that really caught my eye. And I figured, oh, I got to find out more about that. So spoke with her, talked to her, eventually met with her and the manager of the branch, went through some interview processes. And eventually they hired me as a part-time teller, no experience, and got a job as a part-time teller. I'm still going to college. I'm still working at the post office. And after I did that for a year or so, the bank offered me a full-time job, and I could still go to college at night. So I decided to take the leap, leave the post office, continued with my college, and went full-time at the bank. Over the course of several years, I went from being a part-time teller. I was interested in opening new accounts, and that was the next step up for me. So started doing that. I loved working with people. I loved the idea of working with money. So helping customers determine what's the best account for them, finding a loan for them, those kinds of things really interested me. And I felt like I could really give back to those that I was helping in my community. From there, I went on to be an assistant manager, and then to where I'm at today, a branch manager. Along the way, I did get my degree, my associate's degree, and I was working for the bank at the time that I was working for selected me to go to what's called Pacific Coast Banking School, and it's out of the University of Washington. And so it was 3 years. It's like a master's level program, but for bankers. And for 3 summers, I would go back there, and then throughout the year, we would work on projects, group projects, individual projects, and coursework that we actually had to turn in for grades. And so went through that, graduated from that as well. And so really, really good experience. It taught me a lot about actually running a bank, all the ins and outs of a bank, from pricing, earning interest, the loan aspects of it. So it was a lot of information to go over in the course of 3 years. And again, it was 3 great summers up at the University of Washington, had beautiful weather every year. So I had a really, really good time with that. So it is something that you can do. In banking is one industry where it's not actually required that you have a degree from a college, a bachelor's degree. So you can get into banking without that. It does help with certain aspects, and going up the promotion ladder, it's obviously a help there. And if you're looking at doing different things, there are specialized units, there's accounting divisions, things like that, where you actually would want to have an accounting degree. And that leads me into something that all of you are going to be experiencing. So we're going to have a question and answer period, but for right now, what I'd like is to make sure that you guys write down these 3 words. This is something that I've done and I've tried to help others do. And it's as you're going through high school and wrapping up high school and you're going to be entering the workforce, you're going to have opportunities to interview with people. And when you do that, you're going to be asked questions. And a lot of those questions are going to be situational type questions. And so they're going to give you a particular situation and ask you for a response. So what would you do if this happened? What would you do if that happened? So think about that as a situation. So the 3 words that I wanted to talk about today are situation, action, and result. So when you go into an interview, you want to think about situations that you've been in. So what was the situation? For myself, I'll give you an example. I wasn't meeting my monthly loan goal. So that was the situation. The next step is the action. What action did I take or implement to help resolve not meeting my monthly loan goal? So for myself, I put together a plan to make calls to customers for 30 minutes every day, call customers to see if I was able to help them out with some type of loan, whether it's a home equity loan, purchase a home, a consumer loan, a credit card loan, but how could I help them? So I made those calls for 2 weeks straight, 30 minutes every day. And then the last word I mentioned was the result. So what was the end result of my calls? And for me, the end result was I was able to get 4 additional loans, and I actually met my monthly goal. So how can you put that into the situation where you're at right now, where you maybe have had a job or maybe you haven't had a job, but think about your experiences that you've had in high school. Think about a group project you've worked on or an individual project you had to work on. And if you were involved with a team, if you're involved in a team, I know with COVID and everything right now, team sports, we're almost back there, but think about those types of situations. What did you do to help out a team? So pick the situation and build your story around that. So once you have your situation, again, you go to the next step, which is the action. What action did you take? And as you gain more experiences, you can add these to your situation, action, result. So you can call it SAR, whatever you want to call it, something to remember it by, so that you have, when you have more of these situations and you're asked different questions during the interview process, you're able to pull out each of those situations and answer the interviewer's questions. So for some of you out there, maybe you were working on a homework assignment where it was a group homework assignment. And so the situation was, we had this assignment, we had to put it together. What was the action that you took to help the team? And so for my part of this assignment, I was doing the research on whatever it might be. So I was doing the research on interest rates during the 1980s, okay? And then your end result, what you contributed to the team, And then what was your final grade for that? So that's always a good story to tell. And as you go through your career and as you're continuing to build on these experiences, you'll have more and more of these situations that you can draw off of from your past. So good idea is to write down those situations. At this point, if you haven't worked on resumes yet, maybe Google resume. It's something that you should start looking at, because a lot of times employers will ask you for a resume, and that's your past history of what you've done, your work experiences, and you want to keep that up to date. So as you have a new experience, you want to go through that process. And I'll give you a quick example of that with my daughter. My daughter is a student at Point Loma Nazarene University here in town in Point Loma, and she is currently her senior year, but she's also working on her master's program at the same time. So they have a 2-year program, master's program, that they start off during your senior year. So she's working on those things now, and she's also, because she's doing physical therapy, she's working on those things. So she works for a rehabilitation center doing physical therapy currently. She just got accepted to be for the program up at Stanford University over this summer. She'll go up there as an intern, and she gets to work with the college football players, athletes up there during the summertime. So she'll move up there for, I think it's a 6-week program, but that's something that she's going to want to add to her resume, because that's something that she's experienced. They've recognized her for gaining that knowledge. So it doesn't just have to be work experiences, but things that you've accomplished, you want to make sure you include on your resume. And there's lots of programs out there that you can, look up on the internet, and different formats for your resume, but have somebody else look at it. And hopefully maybe you guys have something in school where you could bring in a resume and you can talk about some of your accomplishments that you've done, have those listed on a resume, and then build that resume. So each time you're doing something, build on that resume and have that separate piece of paper that I talked about with your situation, your action, and your result. And build on that list every time. And when you get asked those situational questions, you want to think back, and before you go into an interview, review them before you go in, review those, and then that way they're fresh in your mind. And when the interviewer asks you a question, you think about, okay, what situation would apply to that? Think about your past experiences. And then when you come to them and you give them the answer, you have your situation, your action, and the result. And I've done hundreds and hundreds of interviews. And a lot of times I'll even explain that to the person when we're starting the interview. It's that important so they know what you've done. Okay. With that, I'm going to put on my mask now because Mr. Walters and I will be switching places. We'll give him an opportunity to talk to you.
Okay.
Let me just get the screen ready.
And just for the students here,
Mark,
if you want somebody to review your resume and everything else, you can certainly email me and share it with me. I'm more than happy to do that. I do run some resume workshops here with some of the instructors.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Jeff did a great job. I've known Jeff for 20-some years, and we've done a lot of panel interviewing together, and I thought he brought up a good point. SAR, situation, action, results.
Yep.
That's a great way to do interviewing, so I'm going to remember that. So great job, Jeff. Let me get my notes up here. Jeff is an excellent speaker. I chose to write everything down because I'm an excellent reader. So let me begin. Good afternoon, Vista High School District students. My name is Mark. I, too, am a bank manager and vice president for OneWest Bank. I'm here in Rancho Santa Fe. The first thing you will notice is I am extremely old. I am looking toward the end of my career, as all of you currently are students, and you're preparing for the start of your career. So I just want to say before I get into my bio is, you guys are all incredible. All of you have so many pressures and responsibilities that we didn't have when we were sitting here. I remember sitting in my chair at Crawford High School many, many years ago, and I would be thinking about an upcoming test, or am I ready for the track meet, or does that cute girl sitting 2 rows over even know I'm in her class? And nowadays, all of you have a lot more pressure and stress than I did. You have or will have a lot of questions to deal with going to college, which college, maybe a trade school, getting driver's license or getting a car? Will you move out of your house as soon as high school's over? What career will you have? What should you do with your life? Add that to all the pressures that social media brings, and it can be very overwhelming. And then you throw in the big one, COVID. I don't know if I would have been able to handle all the pressures and stress you young people have today. No school, school from home, maybe going back now or soon, missing out on sports and school activities. Hopefully, things will get back to some sort of normalcy very soon. And I believe all of you will be stronger for it. I want to applaud all of you for just being here today. With all you have going on today, you're focused on what your future might look like. So for me, I was born in San Diego, and as I mentioned, I went to Crawford High School. After graduation, I was accepted and went to San Diego State for about a year and a half. During that time I was at State, I was going to school and working. Now, many of you will start at a retail store, fast food restaurant, or family-owned business, much like I did. And while I was at San Diego State, I was also working at the bakery in Kensington. So if you can imagine getting up at 4:30 in the morning and going to work at the bakery till about noon, then going to school in the afternoon. And at that time, I was also living at a fraternity house at San Diego State, which the average bedtime is about sometime after midnight. I was always tired. In fact, many weekends, I would go home to my parents' house and sleep in my old room just to get some sleep. So when I was working at the bakery, I would cash my paycheck at the bank. It was just 2 doors down. When visiting the branch, I noticed that they all had nice clothes on. None of them were covered in flour like I was, and they opened at 9 o'clock. So I assumed they were not getting up at 4:30 in the morning to go to work like me. So I spoke to the bank manager and asked about a job, and she said they had nothing open. So I said, okay. So I kept going back to cash my check, and I kept asking, hey, do you have any openings? Do you have any openings? And finally she said, we have an opening. So in February 1978, I told you I was old. After the interview process, I started working as a part-time teller, making $2.31.50 per hour with Home Federal in Kensington. So within a few months, I was asked if I wanted to go full-time. Now, as I mentioned, I was going to school at San Diego State. However, to be honest, I hated it. So I quit going to school and started my banking career, and I've been doing this for 43 years. So I started as a teller, and like Jeff, I soon got promoted to teller supervisor and then new account supervisor, operations officer, operations manager. And after 8 years in banking, I was promoted to bank manager, and that's the same job that I have today. I've worked in 11 branches in the San Diego County, and because banks get bought and sold, I've worked for 5 banks. I was lucky enough, like Jeff was, to make it through many, many mergers, and we both had very good careers. But back when I was in high school, I remember taking some type of career exam. It was not a pass or fail test. It was rather, at the end of the exam, it told me what 3 areas or aspects of a career I enjoyed based on how I'd answered the questions. And my 3 were counseling, teaching, and entertaining. Well, in my 43-year career in the banking industry, as a manager, most of that time has been spent counseling, teaching, and certainly entertaining my staff with all the new information that's my job to disseminate from the company. So here's the thing. Banking worked for me because it encompassed the things I like to do, counseling, teaching, and entertaining. But if you want to work outdoors or you want to be an entrepreneur, banking would definitely be a mistake. So discussing banking, most of you are probably thinking about people like Jeff and me, people who work in the branch system, tellers, new accounts people, supervisors, and managers. Well, here's the thing. My company is approximately 5,000 strong, and only 1/10 or 500 of those work in the branch system. The other 4,500 work in other areas like logistics, IT, HR, small business administration, marketing, facilities, securities, and so on and so on and so on. So the banking industry has a cornucopia of jobs for people with all kinds of different skill sets. Me, I'm a helper, always have been. I have more of a giver personality. Now you will meet people in life and some are more givers and some are more takers. Neither is good or bad, they all have their own strengths. However, to be happy in what I do, work in the branch system, I believe it helps that I'm more of a giver, because in the branch system, you have to have a desire to help other people. When people come in with financial problems or questions, our job is to educate them and help them with those financial problems so they can move forward, save money, get a credit card, buy a car or a home, and even prepare them for retirement. Banking isn't for everyone, and there's nothing wrong with going into any other career. The key is to find something you like to do day in and day out. You don't want to be one of those people who work to retire. I know people who hated their jobs. However, they do it because they can eventually retire with a good pension. Well, with that philosophy, you hate 30 to 40 years of your life. Everyone has different skill sets and likes. My lovely bride sits at a computer all day with 3 computer screens and does computer inputting, processes, and flowcharts, and stuff that would drive me crazy, but she loves it. 2 different people doing 2 different jobs, and they both enjoy what they do because they have different interests and different skill sets. You couldn't pay me enough to do the job that she does. In fact, there are probably more people like my lovely bride who work for the bank than me. Remember, I said my lovely bride does flow charts and computer input and stuff, all the yucky stuff I don't want to do. Well, we have many of those people who do that for the bank. They're part of the 4,500 people, employees who don't work in the branch system. So, do you have the right temperament, skill set, and desire to work in the branch system? Can you be analytical? We deal with numbers. Can you be accurate? As a teller, you're required to be responsible for and balance a cash drawer of around $20,000. Can you be articulate and speak to customers? Can you accept coaching, as your supervisor or manager will coach you in what you should say to customers? Can you be empathetic? Our customers normally come in with happy stories. However, sometimes they come in because there's been a death in the family. Can you educate? As many of our customers who know a lot about their own business and what they do have no clue about taking care of their money or any idea how to build a portfolio. Can you do and do you want to work on Saturdays? I worked on Saturdays for 33 years. Not every Saturday, usually 2 or 3 a month. However, except on rare occasions, I didn't have to work at night. And here's a big one. Do you like to sell? The big one, selling. Some people have a negative connotation of selling. However, when you drive through McDonald's, what do they always ask you? Would you like fries with that order? When I used to work for the Gap years ago, I would recommend a belt or a top to go with the pants when people were buying at the Gap, and that's selling. Banks do the same thing. Banks are in many ways just another retail store that sells products, checking accounts, savings, retirement, loans, credit cards, and so forth. Banking is just like any other business you get into. You have to show up on time, preferably early. You have to do your job better than the other employees to get noticed and promoted. When I was a new teller back at Home Federal in Kensington, I noticed my bank manager had this weird quirk about always having the lobby chairs pushed in. So when my bank manager was in the lobby, I would always make it a practice, if I didn't have a customer, walk around the lobby side and push in the chairs. Finding out what your supervisors like and doing it without being asked is a great way to stand out. Sometimes you volunteer for the unpopular tasks to show your supervisor or manager you can handle anything and that you're flexible. You have to be responsible because you'll be dealing with other people's money. And just like any other job, if you don't focus and you make mistakes, or you choose not to do something that the job requires, they'll get rid of you. There's always others who are willing to do your job. If you can find a job where there's growth opportunities, a good salary, good benefits, and you enjoy the job, you will have won the big prize of life. Excuse me, because that is how I feel about my current banking. I will never get rich, but I make enough money to pay my bills, take care of my family, take vacations, and buy toys. Oh, I'm a great believer in buying toys, boats, sea-doos, scuba equipment, snowboards, motorcycles, and so forth. During your career, at some point, you will learn about balancing your life. And what I mean by that is work hard, play hard. Many of us need that balance in our life as our work is important. However, as you grow and form a family, you'll learn to balance your time and efforts with your job and your personal life. Someone taught me about 10 years into my career to always remember, most of us work to live, not live to work. Balance is important. So lastly, I told you I dropped out of San Diego State after a year and a half. This is not something I'm particularly proud of. However, I was not going to lie to you today during the conversation. If I had my life to do all over again, I would have stayed in school. Because did you know a college graduate with a bachelor's degree, on average, earns up to $900,000 more in a lifetime than a high school graduate? So, bottom line, go to college or don't. Work for a company, become an entrepreneur, and work for yourself. If you were not born rich, you will probably have to do something to earn a living. Find something you like to do. It will make your life much happier, because if you enjoy your job, you will enjoy many of the other aspects of your life.
Wow.
So now we're open for questions, right? I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff.
Well, stay.
Yes.
Okay, I got this. Don't worry. I'll come
All
over.
right, so in the chat or off of your mic, either one, I need to have some questions.
Look, I got plexiglass set up. I'm all good.
There he is. So we're all set. So, and I think Ms. Marks has given you an assignment. And part of that assignment has some questions involved.
So my students, this is where, looking at our handout, so for number 1, today's guest speaker, you could just put in OneWest Bank. So go ahead and type in the title of the company that we saw. Number 2, what is his occupation or job title? So what would be the actual term that they would put in for your job title or your occupation?
Branch manager.
Okay, branch manager. So you go, everyone, for number 2, branch manager. Number 3 was what kind of education do you need for this occupation, which they did go over. Did everyone get that, or does anyone still need that information? What occupation?
And can I add on that real quick?
Yeah.
Remember, we're really old. So back then, when you started for banks, you did not require a bachelor's degree. But even going for a teller, one of the things we do put down is we'd like to have a bachelor's degree. So college is very, very important. We just came at a different time in life. So nowadays, going to school and continuing your career is very important.
So for my students, number 3, they are highly recommending, I definitely recommend as well, bare minimum, you can put in BA, because you're probably not sure how to spell bachelor, but just put in BA degree. And that's the kind of degree I have as well. I'm a teacher. Okay, good. Number 4, what are the day-to-day duties?
We count money. We play in money. We roll around in it. Okay, I'm kidding. We don't get to do that. But when I was first hired as a part-time teller, my very first week, they had me in a bank vault counting, I think it was about, if I remember, a few years ago, probably about 150,000 in cash I was having to count. And I'm just going, wait, you can't do this to me my first week. I can't take any, and don't worry, people, there's cameras watching you and everything. So you can't really take anything, because if you do something bad with the bank, because we're federally insured, it's a federal offense. So don't do it. Just don't do it. And I've been involved with robberies in the past. I was not personally the robber, but, you know, I've been involved in witnessing it, I should say.
Oh, wow.
So just be careful. But what do we do day to day? Go ahead.
Truthfully, what we do day to day is we just help people. We're an errand in somebody's life. I got to get my hair cut. I got to go to the grocery store, and I'm going to go to the bank. We're just an errand in somebody's life. We take their deposits. We make their withdrawals. We help them find ways to make more money. We help them find ways to save money. We help them with credit cards. We help them with loans. We're there to solve financial problems. That's what we do.
And it's very rewarding. You think back into the, you know, when I first got into banking and stuff, I think about all the home equity loans that I've done over the years, where people are consolidating their debts. And that just means they have a whole bunch of credit cards, maybe some student loans, and they're consolidating everything so that their monthly payments are less, or maybe the interest rate is better. And so helping people is such a big part of our jobs. And it's so rewarding when at the end of the day, you know that you helped 5 people today, and that we were able to get a consolidation loan, and it's going to save these people, because the interest rate is lower, we're going to save them $500 a month. What can they do for their families with that extra $500 a month? So very rewarding, self-gratification.
And you may have just gained a new customer, because I seriously need to do consolidation. I have everything that you just mentioned: student loans, credit card, I have it all.
Everybody does. We're
I
all in
know.
the same boat, but we try to help them because you know about teaching, somebody knows about doctoring, somebody knows about this. We know about money. We know how to help you do things better and make it more easy for you. That's our job.
Awesome. I'm pretty sure you went over already, but maybe you could just kind of recap the skills necessary for this occupation. I heard empathy was a big one and customer service are big ones as well. So maybe just recap the skills needed.
And some of the things that Mr. Walters mentioned are very, very important. I mean, something when I'm doing an interview and when I'm looking at a candidate at an entry level, when they're coming in as whether it's full-time, part-time teller, is dependability. You know, we want that person that's going to be dependable. We need to know, you know, if we open the doors at 9 and we want you here at 8:45 so you can get your cash drawer set up and everything, you need to be here. You know, always tell yourself if they want you there at 8:45, you need to be there at 8:35 or 8:40. Get there early for your interview. Now, you don't want to be a half an hour early because you want to be respectful of their time. But whether it's an interview, a new job, whatever, get there and be ready to work at your scheduled time. So, you know, dependability. You have to have, in our line of work, you have to have some math skills. So you got to be able to count a little bit, especially if you're starting off as a teller. I can say over the course of all the years that I was a teller, not once, knock on wood, was I ever once I was out of balance, but because that was when I first started and my supervisor took a cash fee from somebody for $5 for a notary and she threw it in my drawer, which we don't do that anymore. You're not allowed to share drawers, no cash drawer sharing.
I was out of balance all the time. I think that's why they promoted me because I was good at looking for outages.
So what are the skill sets?
I think the skill sets are based on the job. Like I said, as an entry-level teller new accounts, you need to be very accurate, very organized because you're counting cash. I mean, that's your responsibility. But also you have to be able to do that while you're functioning with a computer and talking to a live person. So you kind of have to multitask. It's a lot of multitasking.
And that's real important what he just said there about being able to communicate with others, because that's a big part of our jobs. It's that building rapport with the customer. You know, when they come in, they may not be aware of a need that they have, and that's our job to help them uncover that need and to provide a solution to them. So even as a teller, you know, you have your tellers, and we constantly work with our tellers about looking for little clues that they might need something. Oh, I can't believe my mortgage payment is this much. Oh, well, when was the last time you had a mortgage review? Oh, it's been 7 years. Do you know what interest rate you're at? Yeah, I'm at 8%. Well, rates right now are in the high 2s and low 3s. So on a mortgage, which is the biggest purchase you'll probably ever make, you can save quite a bit of money by reducing that interest rate. And so looking for those things, being gregarious, being willing to talk to somebody and to build that rapport and that trust with them is so important to us.
I just want to say one last thing on skills is if you've been in sports before, you have a coach and they tell you when you're doing right and wrong and they tell you how to correct it. The same thing happens in your job. That's what your boss does. They coach you along too, saying, this wasn't right, but I want you to do this in the future. So if you can't accept coaching, that's a big thing that's involved with banking nowadays, is because with selling, there's certain verbs and vowels and words that we use and behaviors. So you need to be able to accept coaching positively. Now, your coach should be positive most of the time, but you also have to accept it in a positive way because we're just trying to help you get better.
And it's okay to make mistakes. Every new hire I have, I tell them, it's okay to make mistakes, but own it. Talk to me about it. When it happens, let us know. Yeah. You know, don't make the same mistake 3 times though. You have to learn from your mistakes, but make us aware of it as soon as possible, especially when we're dealing with other people's money. We want to get that fixed ASAP.
And just my own personal experiences in going to banks, you know, that customer service one as a customer is huge, because I did experience, unfortunately, one particular bank where I went to and the teller was just rude and I just got a bad feeling from her. It was a bad experience and I took out all my money. I didn't want to bank there anymore just because of that one negative experience with that teller. So it really does make a very big difference. So I think that's a super important one. Okay, and then, well, the other question is, what did they learn? So they have to fill that out on their own. Number 7, that's any questions you all still have for these 2 gentlemen. So I'll open it up to my students. Mr. Sardovac, you said they could chat questions because some of them are really shy to actually.
Yeah, in fact, most of the students prefer to do that. I've found is you can just type it up and throw it in the chat and I can just read it out.
Okay,
don't even-
perfect. So
Don't even
students,
have to use your name if you're that shy.
it can be anonymous. So students,
Yeah,
go
you
ahead and
can
try and
just do
ask
that.
at
I
least
won't,
one
I won't,
question.
yeah. Or you can just direct message me. How long does it take to where they are right now? Okay, so how long does it take you to get to be a branch manager, let's say? I guess the easiest
You know, if you start off if you came in like the two of us did as a part-time teller, I would say it's probably a good 5 to 7 years. You know, your willingness, as Mr. Walters mentioned earlier, your willingness to work with your supervisors, to adapt, to take constructive criticism, and to build on that. And if you can show those qualities and show that you can do that, you're going to move up relatively fast if you're willing to do the things necessary. And if you have a good leader, and that's what's so important, is you don't want just, our title says branch manager. We have managers out there, and by title, yes, we're both managers, but we are both leaders first. And a good leader they're going to be working with you, they're going to be supporting you the whole way, and they're going to help get that drive from within you so that, they're not holding a fire to your feet. They're building that fire from within you so that you want to do it and you want to work with them. And, I tell my staff probably a couple times a year, the name on the outside of the building can change at any time. The people we work with day to day are what matter. So you have to be able to work well with others. You got to be able to work well within the team. So you want to add anything?
I think you said it all.
Okay, more questions before we run out of time.
And remember to work on your resumes. If you guys haven't done that yet, get something going and start writing down your stories with that SAR acronym that we talked about.
Yep. We have a funny question, which is, do your brains and eyes hurt after all the math and counting?
Yes.
Yes, they do. There's your answer.
Mine don't. I don't do that a lot anymore. In the beginning, a lot of counting and stuff. Like he said, we're old now.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I said this in my speech, we've known each other a long time. We've really enjoyed what we do because we're basically coming in and helping people every day. And yeah, there's the money and there's the counting stuff, but it's all about wanting to help other people. If you kind of like my lovely bride who just wants to sit at a computer and not talk to people, she's awesome at that. Do that. Find what your skill set is and find a job that does those things you want to do. My dad worked outside all his life. He didn't want to work inside. I was a little guy. I wasn't very big. I had to work inside where it was air conditioned and heated. So find the things that you enjoy doing on a daily basis and find jobs that do the same thing. And then you'll get success out of it because you'll like what you're doing. You will be happy and you'll move up because you'll show initiative all the time.
It's not really work if you like it.
They still pay me.
True.
You still gotta get your money.
Okay.
I think the law requires we pay you.
Yeah, so for one of the students asking, their names are Mark Walter and Jeffrey Lenhoff.
I'm Jeff. That's Mark.
How much money do you deal with every day?
Cash we deal with two different things. We deal with actual cash and we deal with electronic money. I'm in Rancho Santa Fe, so we have customers. I had a customer today who came in, opened an account for $254,000. Okay, we don't deal with that kind of cash. It's all checks and electronic stuff. But in other markets, they do a lot of cash things. There's different affluent neighborhoods, more blue collar neighborhoods. So depending on what neighborhood you're going to be in, you're going to be using a lot of cash. I used to work in a branch where every 2 weeks we got 200,000 in cash that we had to count. Everybody had to count 200,000. Nowadays, there'll be days when I don't actually use any cash because everything's electronic and check and debit card and that. So there's days when we'll go by 2 or 3 days we don't use any cash. In the branches, we keep a couple 100,000.
If that.
If that.
Hey, but remember, it's a federal offense. Don't go to banks for that.
Yeah, so like I said, it's usually most of what we do nowadays is electronic money. And there's some we have customers out there that have a couple million in their checking account because of the affluent neighborhood that we live in.
Yeah.
I get to go home back to Spring Valley where we don't live like that. So I'm just visiting here.
Another question we had is, what inspired you to do the job you are doing right now? And I think you guys kind of covered that a little bit already in terms of a passion for customer service and a passion for your industry. Anything we'd like to
I
add to
didn't
that?
want to go into banking. I just was at a bakery and I thought this has got to be a better job than what I'm at. And it turned into a wonderful career. But when I was in high school, I was like, banking? God, that sounds boring. I don't want to be in banking. But it turned out to be a great career. So I had no vision to do it.
Yeah, and that's good terminology there. You know, there's difference between a career and just a job, okay? So, you know, again, if you like what you're doing, it's not really a job. So find something that interests you, that motivates you, that you're gonna want to go to work. And you know, it's so important that when you do become that manager or that boss, that you look back on some of these things and you remember how you were treated, because every boss, you can take some good away from it. Even if they were doing things not the right way or they did something bad, hopefully you, if you become that future boss, you remember, hey, when that happened to me, this is what that person did, and I didn't like that. So remember that and take that with you. It's about building experiences and your own life experiences, and build off of that and build your own career, and just find that thing that drives you and that makes you happy.
So on a personal note, I run the entrepreneurship program here at Vista High School. We're on pause right now due to COVID. But I would like you gentlemen to come back next year and talk to some of our budding entrepreneurs, if you don't mind. Because I think you can give us some insight on
Is the pay the same?
how to run a business. This is going to be junior achievement, by the way.
I don't think you remember.
I don't. We'd love to.
Okay. I think we're starting running out of time because the school day is about to end. All that fun's about to end, which is too bad. But I would really like to thank you, gentlemen, for coming and speaking to our students today. I got a lot out of it. A lot of your advice is spot on. I've started and run my own businesses before, and the STAR method of practicing for interviews is critical. And it's something the students should have paid attention to, hopefully. And all of your insights, great. You can feel the enthusiasm right through here for what you do. And that is highly appreciative. And thank you, Ms. Marks, for bringing your students today. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much, both of you, for presenting today. This was great.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
everybody. And thank you
Feel
so
free to
much
give
for
out
coming.
Mark's email.
Yep.
Hi.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.